Darling, if you want all eyes on you, I have terrible news. You're going to have to stop trying to get all eyes on you. Yes, I know. Horrible. Devastating. Please put the attention-seeking outfit back in the closet. Because the women who naturally pull attention aren't constantly asking, are they noticing me? They're so busy being entertained by their own existence that everyone else becomes curious. And please, I'm about to give you the little psychological tricks that make people naturally curious about you. And no, I'm not telling you to be confident. If I hear that advice one more time, I'm calling the universe for a refund. 1. Stop entering rooms looking for your reflection in other people's eyes. This is big. You walk into a room and your brain immediately goes, who noticed me? Do I look good? Does she like me? Why isn't he looking? Am I being interesting enough? Baby, you've turned the entire room into a surveillance operation. Instead, enter thinking, what am I going to enjoy here? Maybe you're curious about someone's story. Maybe the food looks amazing. Maybe you want to hear the conversation happening in the corner. Now you're participating in life instead of monitoring your performance in it. And people notice that difference. 2 girls walk into a party. Girl A enters and immediately checks who's looking at her. Girl B enters like, oh, they have that dessert I like. And wait, who is that woman wearing those earrings? She's already living. Guess who becomes more interesting? Exactly. Darling, I think we completely misunderstood what it means to have all eyes on you. We keep asking, how do I become so attractive that everybody notices me? But the more interesting question is, why does being noticed feel like proof that I'm valuable? Because that's where the real game is. You don't actually want every pair of eyes in the room. You want what you imagine those eyes mean. You want to feel chosen, interesting, beautiful, important, desired, relevant, safe. And once you understand that, something becomes very funny. Because now you're walking around trying to collect little pieces of evidence that you matter. A compliment becomes evidence. A text becomes evidence. Someone staring becomes evidence. Someone being impressed becomes evidence. A follower count becomes evidence. Someone wanting you becomes evidence. Darling, that's a terrible business model. You've basically outsourced your self-worth to a group of people who woke up with their own problems, insecurities, preferences, and bad moods. Why are they running your company? Take the keys back. Because here's what happens when you become dependent on being noticed. You stop experiencing yourself directly. You start experiencing yourself through an imagined audience. You're not simply wearing the dress. You're imagining how the dress looks on you to them. You're not simply telling the joke. You're monitoring whether they laughed. You're not simply enjoying the date. You're checking whether they seem impressed. You're not simply creating. You're thinking about whether people will think you're talented, and slowly, your own experience of your life gets replaced by your observation of other people's experience of you. That's the trap. And it's exhausting, because now there are 2 of you everywhere you go. There's the real you, and the little manager in your head watching the real you and asking, how are we being perceived? Fire the manager. Seriously. Because the most magnetic people aren't necessarily people who receive the most attention. They're people who are least divided inside themselves. They're actually there. When they're eating, they're eating. When they're laughing, they're laughing. When they're talking, they're listening. When they're creating, they're creating. They're not constantly stepping outside themselves to inspect how they're coming across. And you can feel that. That's presence. That's why some quiet people can hold your attention without trying. They're not broadcasting. Please notice me. They're completely connected to what they're doing. And here's the beautiful part. When you stop needing attention, you don't become invisible. You become free. And freedom has a very different energy from validation seeking. Validation says, tell me who I am. Self-knowledge says, I'm discovering who I am. Validation says, do you like me? Self-respect says, do I like who I become around you? Validation says, did I impress them? Self-trust says, was I proud of how I showed up? Validation says, why didn't they choose me? Self-worth says, would I even choose that situation for myself? Do you see the shift? You're moving the center of gravity back into yourself. And that is when life gets delicious. Because now you're not choosing clothes based on what will make people stare. You're choosing them based on what makes you feel like yourself. You're not telling stories to sound interesting. You're telling them because they're funny. You're not becoming mysterious, so someone becomes obsessed with you. You simply stop explaining every corner of yourself because you don't experience your identity as something that needs to be marketed. You're not trying to look confident. You become less concerned with looking like anything. And ironically, that's when you start looking incredibly confident, because confidence isn't always this giant "I'm the best." Sometimes confidence is simply, I don't need to constantly monitor myself. Think about how peaceful that is. You enter a room, nobody looks at you, and your internal world doesn't collapse. Someone looks at you, cute. Your internal world doesn't inflate either. Someone compliments you, you enjoy it. Someone criticizes you, you examine it. Someone misunderstands you, you clarify if it matters. Someone dislikes you continue being yourself. Your emotional temperature isn't being controlled by every stranger who walks past. That is power. And darling, I want you to understand something even deeper. The goal isn't to become so secure that nobody's opinion ever affects you. That's not being human. The goal is to become so anchored in yourself that other people's opinions become information instead of identity. That's a completely different relationship with the world. Someone says, "You're too much." You can think, "Interesting. Maybe I was too much for you." Not, "How do I become less?" Someone says, "You're amazing." You can think, "Interesting. Maybe I was too much for you." Not, "How do I become less?" Someone says, "You're amazing." You can think, "That's beautiful. Thank you." Not, finally, proof. You can receive admiration without needing it. You can receive rejection without becoming it. You can hear criticism without worshiping it. You can hear praise without becoming addicted to it. And suddenly, people don't have the power to manufacture your identity anymore. That's the goddess energy. Not being the most beautiful woman in the room. Not being the loudest. Not having everyone obsessed with you. It's walking into a room knowing, whatever happens in here, I am still me when I leave. That is why you become magnetic. Because you're not asking the room to complete you. You're bringing a complete experience of yourself into the room. And if someone sees it, beautiful. If someone doesn't, they simply missed the exhibition. But you're not standing outside the gallery begging them to come inside. You're inside admiring the art. And darling, the art is you. See you in the next episode, darling. Bye. Take care.